you know, it's snapper season and trying to get as much fishing as I can. Going out on a friend's boat. Technically, this is our first time actually going offshore on this boat, and you know, our first try at this wasn't very successful. Had little boat issues, but nothing we couldn't get past. So here, you know, you can see us trying some trolling. You know, it wasn't much success, but it was our first time trying to go offshore on our own, and it was definitely a learning experience. You know, for some reason my microphone wasn't working on my GoPro. I guess it's just seeing too many days in salt water and the mic's just not working. But every once in a while you hear me step in and talk about what's going on. After unsuccessfully trolling, you know, we saw a shrimp boat and we decided to pull up behind it a little ways back to try to see if we could catch some of its fish that kind of feed off the weight that the nets cause when they drag across the bottom. But you know, we weren't able to catch up to that boat too well, and we didn't really catch anything. So we decided to go to another spot and try to do some bottom drops. You know, I'm kind of looking for some big fish, so you know, I didn't want to mess with any small baits. Some of the other people were using sardines and squid to try to pull up some snapper, but I didn't feel like fighting a bunch of little snappers, so I wanted to start off with a big bait to see if I can entice a big snapper to come in and grab it. For the most part, I wasn't having much success. My friend hooked up on a fish here, and you can see as he's pulling it up, it was a nice sized shark. Looked like a sand shark. We ended up letting it go because nobody wanted it. And as you can see here, some of the guys are pulling some. Overall, I mean, they're a decent sized snapper, but you know, they're a little bit smaller than what I was looking for. But you know, they seem to be consistently pulling up the small snappers, and I just wasn't interested in trying to catch any small snappers. I was hoping for a big snapper, but you know, unfortunately not much luck. As the day progressed, you know, I decided to try a different bait, see if I can catch something different, but it seemed like there was nothing but little snappers in the water that day, or at least in that little specific area that we were. There were some other boats around us. It didn't seem like they were having all that much luck either. But then they weren't really catching anything either. I mean, we at least were putting some fish on the deck. So I'm not really sure what kind of fishing they were doing, what kind of fish they were targeting. But you know, our main goal out here was to hit up the snapper. my buddy hooked up onto a pretty big fish. You know, he was fighting it for a while. We were kind of curious as to what kind of fish it was. It seemed to be pulling pretty hard, and you know, he wasn't really used to fighting fish like this, so it was definitely wearing him down, and it was a pretty exhaustive fight, and eventually we got it up, but you'll see here in a little bit.
Imagine if this was a yellowfin tuna, man.
Unfortunately, you know, throughout most of this video, you'll see that little smudge in the middle there. I tried cleaning off my camera case, and it was still there. So I'm assuming it must have been inside the case, or maybe it was on the camera itself. But you know, one of the unfortunate things of using these types of cameras is sometimes you can't tell when there's something wrong, but oh well. As you can see here, he's still fighting the fish, but you know, you'll see it pop up here shortly, and he was getting pretty worn out by the fish, and it was a pretty big fish, to be honest with you, for that little reel. But you know, I'm not sure what kind of drag he had set on there, or how much how many pound line he had on his reel, but you know, once it came to the surface, you know, we were pretty sure we didn't want to keep it, and you know, unfortunately, you know, it was pretty much a waste of energy, but you know, still a fun catch, especially since he finally got it to surface for a little bit. So as you can see here, it was a huge hammerhead shark. Definitely small as far as how big these hammerheads can get, but pretty big shark in general. The video really doesn't do it justice, especially if you're not used to seeing fish like this in the water. It may look a little bit small, but that shark is at least 7-8 feet long. Probably weighs a couple 100 pounds. And you know, he finally did get it to surface for a little bit, but at this point he was pretty spent, and looked like he was gonna have to tag out and tag someone else in. And my other buddy wanted to give it a try. I really had no interest in fighting this shark, just because, you know, to be honest with you, I just wanted to cut it loose, just because the more we fight it, you know, the more exhausted the shark will get, and the less likely it would be able to survive after the fight. So hopefully, with a fresh pair of arms, we'll be able to get this shark up and get it loose before it gets too exhausted. So as you can see here, it was still a pretty long, drawn-out fight. I mean, after all, this was a pretty big shark. I mean, he was a 7-8 foot hammerhead, so you know, it was a decent sized shark, and it was definitely pulling drag, and it didn't want to come back up. At some point, you know, he tangled up with another person on the boat, and you know, you kind of see him kind of stepping in, but his rod and reel setup, you know, wouldn't have helped the situation much at all. At this point, we needed to get that shark up and cut him loose, and so you know, you can see me making my way around to the other side of the boat to try to grab a hold of the line and control the shark to cut the line. You know, and now you'll be able to get a good view of the shark too. just to kind of see how big this thing is. You know, again, unfortunately, the other guy was tangled up, so it made things a little bit more difficult. Now that I think back to this moment, I wish I would have cut the lines a little bit differently. As you can see here, when I come up to the line to yank the shark in closer, so I can cut the line as close to the shark as possible, so that way he's not dragging a bunch of line behind him. First thing I do is I cut the main line, and I was reaching down to cut the rest of the line, but then the shark just started thrashing around and yanked the line out of my hand before I could cut it closer to him. I should have just been more patient and yanked him up first and cut the line that one time, but you know, unfortunately that's how it happened. And you know, so now the shark's gonna have a long line behind him, but eventually the hook will rust out, the line will disappear. So you know, we weren't having much luck, and you know, especially me, since I was trying to pay for bigger bait. Eventually, I hooked into something that felt like a decent sized fish. You know, I was hoping that it would be a nice big snapper, but unfortunately, it wasn't. And it looks like we just got another visit from the tax man again. And unfortunately, it wasn't something we'd want to keep again. You know, not really big on keeping shark, just because I don't really like the way shark tastes. So once I got it up, I ended up just cutting it loose again, and you know, it was an interesting fight. You know, it was a nice fight. It's with my setup though, you know, it wasn't that difficult to pull up. But if anything, you know, it was a nice little shark, maybe like 3-4 foot shark, which is not bad. Still a small shark though. So after cutting the shark loose, we fished for a little bit longer, and we weren't having much luck finding any big snappers, so I decided to just start pulling up whatever snapper we could get. For the most part, most of the snapper we were getting were around 16 to 17 inches, which are still a decent sized snapper, but you know, definitely not what we were looking for. At this point, we just wanted to put our limit on the boat and call it a day. We had a hard time getting the 10 snapper on because we were just pulling up a lot of snapper that were barely legal, and eventually my camera stopped working for whatever reason, and you know, we didn't really catch much after that anyways, just more snapper and one kingfish. You know, definitely a learning experience next time we go out, but hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.